Good evening, class.
Good evening.
This has been a very, very hectic 2 weeks for me. I realize that this is not the speech that we're supposed to be doing for this week. However, I have been doing some things with my mother. So, being that I have been her caregiver for quite a while, I would like to talk about caregiver burnout. That is something that I have really learned about for the past 4 or 5 months. My mother was diagnosed with lung cancer back in June on the 21st. And after that, my life had a different turn. So, as far as being a caregiver, it's not something that I had expected. You know, a lot of times you see a person and they're up and going and they're very spunky and full of energy, and they're driving me around and we're shopping together, we're doing all kinds of fun things, and all of a sudden, like overnight, once she was diagnosed with lung cancer, things started to change for us. Well, the other thing was, before she was diagnosed with lung cancer, she was diagnosed with dementia. So it was a little easier when I was helping her with the dementia, because a lot of times somebody would ask her a question and she would say, I'm not sure about that. And then she'd say, oh, okay, Taffany, help me out. So then I could kind of just say, oh yeah, it's this or it's that. So that was a little easy. But after she had surgery for her lung cancer, and they took out the tumor that had the cancer in it, she also had some other cancerous spots that they could not get to. So she ended up having to have radiation and chemo. Well, I was told that chemo is the worst, but a lot of people who have had radiation said that radiation is really bad too. So as a result, she is now bedridden, so I have to change her. I also have to get somebody to feed her. Of course, you know, a totally blind person wouldn't want to feed someone, because I'd have food all in her nose, all in her eyes and everything. So I don't think she would want me to feed her. So I always get one of my sons to come in and feed her, or my sister. My sister works some crazy hours. She goes in at 2 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes she doesn't get off till like 6 or 7 o'clock in the evenings. So the bulk of the caregiver side of this is on me. Well, a lot of people would probably say, how do you do all of this and you can't see? Well, I was born blind, so you don't miss something that you've never had. So I don't miss sight. I put on my rubber gloves and do whatever I need to do. I do cook and clean and make her bed and things of that nature. So that's not a big issue. If I don't have someone to feed her, I'm sure you probably are wondering, what in the world would you do if you didn't have someone to feed your mother? Well, it's simple. I make a smoothie and pour it in a cup, give her a straw, and she can have her meal that way. Radiation has also taken a toll on her throat. Her throat is very sore. She has sores in her mouth, and she can only eat like maybe a 4th cup of food per feeding. So it's just been crazy. I mean, I wear many hats, and it's hard to wear all of the hats and still be a caregiver. You get burned out after a while. I homeschool my youngest son, who is now in the 11th grade. My oldest son has already graduated. He graduated a year early, so he's been graduated now since 17. And so homeschooling and having to do my schoolwork with CCU. Also, I'm a youth pastor at my church, and I also, what else do I have going on? I mean, just abundance of things. I have lots of hats, but now I'm starting to really get burned out. I'm starting to get really tired a lot. My back is killing me. I have the worst back issues because I'm constantly having to lift, pull, and tug on my mother, because some days she wants to get up and some days she does not. So she wants to fight. So what do? I have to fight too. So anyway, there's just burnout. The caregiver burnout is something that happens to everyone who is a caregiver, and a lot of times it can lead to depression. It leads to fatigue. It leads to just not thinking straight because your mind is so bottled with all of the things that are going on. And I have been reading up on some of this on caregiver.org, and also there's another website, and I cannot remember exactly which one it was, but I do remember the caregiver.org because I did go on there and I read up on a few things, and it was talking about how to prevent and how to avoid the caregiver burnout. So I'm still studying up on it, and it's not easy to be a caregiver, but it is very easy to burn out. So it's just the idea now of trying to find help. And if anybody has any suggestions at all as to what I can do to get help, or what I can do to work on the burnout, please feel free to share. One of the things that I do to help me out with caregiver burnout is meditate. Meditation is something that I have learned to do when I was studying the metaphysical side of spirituality. And so I am learning how to meditate. Another thing is prayer. I truly talk to God a lot, and He doesn't put any more on me than I can bear. And I thank Him and praise Him for that at all times. And just knowing that someday my mother will start to feel better and she will be healed, that keeps me going as well. So you want to give back to the community or the people that have been in your life for a very long time, who has taken care of you when you couldn't take care of yourself. And that is the joy of being a caregiver. But we also have to keep in mind that because we are human, we can get burned out. And caregiver burnout is what I really wanted to discuss today, because that is something that I'm going through at this time, and experience is the best teacher. So in order to speak on something of this nature, I would have to have gone through it in order to talk about it. So I hope this speech is something that you can relate to. I hope it is something that you have gotten some type of informative information from. And just know that if you become a caregiver in the future, just know that you are to pray first, aim high, and stay focused, and you will get through the caregiver burnout. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.